Welcome to Pixel Realms, the podcast where two geeks dive headfirst into the gaming multiverse. They're basically like Gandalf in a headset, minus the wisdom and magic. So, grab your snacks and level up your patience. Pixel Realms, where the pixels are real, but the knowledge, not so much.
This is Pixel Realms, episode 10. We're talking about early access games. I'm Mark.
I'm Joe.
So early access games, but first, we're gonna do the news, but before that, I was gonna try something different this week. So Joe, I'm gonna ask, so what have you been playing? What have you been doing this past week?
So I played a little bit of Star Wars Outlaws, and what else did I do this week? I did something else, I thought, other than Flight Sim.
Didn't you say you bought was it Jedi Survivor with during the Steam sale?
No, I didn't buy anything during Steam sale.
Okay. I thought you said you had bought something.
No, Star Wars Outlaws was on sale, but it's through Ubisoft store.
Okay.
Actually, no, that was through Green Man, I think.
Oh, okay. So you've been playing some of Outlaws, because that game kind of bombed for it being a Star Wars game. So I'm kind of curious. You've been playing it. What do you think of it?
So the story is fine. I think the story is actually unique and interesting. The gameplay mechanics is very different than a Star Wars game.
Mhm.
I do understand some of the people's complaints about it, that it's not your typical Star Wars game, and I think that's what they're going after. It's such a Star Wars, there are so many people who are deep into the Star Wars lore, and they want lightsabers, and all that jazz. And this is not like that. You're playing a female version of Han Solo to an extent. And the open world is okay. It's interesting. The little vehicle you get to drive around is kind of cool. It's all right. It's all right. It's not as bad as people say. Now, there's been some patches that have come out recently that have changed it to where you don't end the mission right away if you get caught. So you can go in there guns blazing and hope to survive. But yeah, it's not bad.
So you think it's because they tried something different and fans were like, "Hey, this isn't my Star Wars game. I read this."
Yeah, I think it's a combo of that. I think it's also a combo of the open world fatigue, Ubisoft open world fatigue.
That's very fair. That's very fair. I mean, open world fatigue is not even just Ubisoft. Open world fatigue has been there, I think, a while, because for a while we were getting just a string of open world games where it's just like, all right, come on now, let's do something else.
That's what I liked about Star Wars Fallen Order and Survivor. Like, you do play as a Jedi, but they're not open world. They're closed world. You can explore a little part of the planet, very small area. But it's very story driven, and it nailed it extremely well, both of those two games. And this one, I think if they would have gone just a story driven, Kratos kind of style thing, I think it would have been just fine.
Okay.
But Ubi's Ubi, and they make everything open world.
Oh yeah. As for me, I have gotten, I've got an addiction, Joe. I've got. It's bad.
You have many addictions, but what's your new one?
So there's two currently taking up my life. I am playing I guess you could say early access, or whatever you want to call it, alpha of the MMO Pantheon. It is a game that's been in development already for forever. The joke was the joke was, especially between me and your cousin, that like, oh, the game's never coming out. Like, it's already been in development for at least 4, if not 5 years. It might be more, but it went through sort of development hell. There was some issues with I think there was some money issues at one time. I know one of the people working on the game passed away also, and they've gone back to the drawing board and redone it. And it plays very much like a very old school MMO. I'm talking Ultima Online, which is like
Yeah, that's old
90s.
school. Yeah.
EverQuest 1, just very old school. And I thought I was going to hate it. As a matter of fact, the first time I played it, I played with your cousin for, I want to say an hour or two, maybe 3. I don't remember. And I really wasn't feeling it. Maybe it was the class I was playing, because I was playing my normal MMO class, which is like a ranger hunter. But apparently they don't do well very early in the game. So I tried other classes and found myself really enjoying it, and kind of going back to it a lot, to the point where, because I'm kind of currently in my WoW mode, where it's like nothing really going on. There's not really anything to do in WoW. Even the new content that had come out really wasn't that good or worth doing. So when my sub is up, I'll probably let it stay gone for a little while. So that surprised me. And then also, Bolitro, Joe, Bolitro. It hurts. It hurts so bad. It hurts. Like on Steam, it doesn't seem like I've been playing it a lot, because I have it on my phone, and it's bad. It's real bad.
I'm glad I don't really have any of those kind of little game addictions. Like
I
I
need
play
help.
Monopoly Go, but I only do that in the morning for 10, 15 minutes. It's
I
just
need
part of my
help.
routine. That's it.
Help. Some help.
There's no
Yeah, no,
helping you.
no, there really isn't. Like, there's no um outside of buying the game, and I don't even know if did I buy the game. I don't think I actually bought the game. I think I have the arcade, the Apple Arcade thing on iOS, which I think is like, it's like a monthly fee of like $3, $4, and you get like access to like actual games, not your not your Candy Crushes, but like actual games. And yeah, like Bolicho is a really good game, and it's really addicting, and I can't stop playing it, because you can have like a session uh go like a matter of minutes to like an hour at a time, like depending on how good your luck is, your RNG, when it comes to getting the cards you need or getting the jokers you need with the right stats, and building combos that way. It I didn't think it was going to be a game for me. I didn't think I was going to get addicted to it, and goddamn if I'm not addicted.
Those kind of games do it to you for sure.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess now let's move on to the news real quick. I'll start with a small piece of news, because it happens every year, so most people already know about it. But AGDQ is going on. Awesome Games Done Quick. It happens every January, and runs for a full week, and then I think it comes back either in June or July. And it is the weekly speed running marathon, where basically people speed run a ton of games over the course of a week, and people donate to charity to prevent cancer, and they usually always break 1 million, if not 2 million. I think there was even like last year, the year before, where they broke, I think, 3 million, which was a record. So yeah, it's just a fun thing that the gaming community does twice a year, that really brings people together for a good cause.
That's awesome. That's a really good thing.
Yeah. And what
In
you got?
depressing and exciting news we have across the board for this episode, the big news is CES has officially started. They started on the 6th of January. And obviously, if for those who don't know, Consumer Electronics Show is what it stands for. CES happens every single year. It's where companies go and showcase the newest TVs, computer hardware, and it's sometimes software, but mostly it's hardware. And for us, what makes sense is to talk about the Nvidia announcement, which is the Nvidia 50 series, which everyone knew was coming. And so the 50 series was announced. The 5090, the 5080, the 5070 Ti, and the 5070 are all going to be coming this year. Now, the interesting part, I think, personally, is that they are raving that the 5070 starts at 549 and is as powerful as the 4090. You're like, wait, that's impossible. It is impossible. The only reason why they are stating the performance is equal to 4090 is if you enable frame generation, if you enable the new DLSS 4, and then they're also including with the 50 series a brand new frame generation, which is like multi-screen, multi-generation frame generation or something like that. Anyways, it's supposed to make it so it's even smoother. There isn't as many lag feeling moments when you're using frame generation. So it's interesting. I'm looking at the numbers, and I had told myself I was probably going to skip the 50 series because I'm happy with my 4080, and I think that's still true going forward. But, we'll see what happens in the future. And, it's Nvidia. They now dominate the graphics market. AMD has confirmed that they have dropped out of the high-end market for the most part for their graphic cards, and Intel definitely is not anywhere near that and has no interest in going there. They're going to do the entry-level market, which is a great tactic for them because their prices are really, really good and their cards are getting better and better. And I would not be surprised within 2 years if Intel takes the place of AMD at that low-end market to even the mid-market because their pricing is super competitive. Super competitive.
So I guess for someone like me who's not very smart with those kind of things, how do you break that down? Like, what is okay? So I have a 3060. Is that considered a high end or a low end or a medium end? Like, what is a 3060?
Yeah, 3060 would be mid to low, I would say in today's. The 3070, the premium card in that area, in that category, was the 3090 Ti. So you're definitely well below that one, but it's still a good card. It's a good card for, medium to high graphics. Performs quite well at 1080p. No issues. It's once you go into 4K, 2K, 4K, is where you're going to start seeing those frame drops hit harder and harder.
So I've always heard that you skip a generation, and I was going to be upgrading my computer probably this year, but now with the 50 series coming out, I'm wondering now, I guess I should probably wait until either the 5060 or the 5070 comes out. I mean, because I usually go for the 60 series because it's cheaper and it does a great job. It doesn't break the bank like some of these other ones. Not to mention what they sometimes don't tell you with these graphic cards is the more powerful they get, the bigger they get. And
I like 40 is huge.
I like my mid-sized towers. I don't like large towers. I don't like the full gaming towers. I like my mid-sized towers. So I mean, my mid-size, my tower could probably fit a 40 series and probably even the new 50 series, but it's still, it gets a little ridiculous with the sizes.
Oh yeah, for sure. There are like the 4060s that came out. There are smaller versions of the 40 series cards.
Mm-hmm.
So it's when you get into the 80s, the 4080s, 4090 especially, is where the cards get really big. The 4070 Ti's. I don't know if there are Ti's actually. There's Ti's. 4070 Ti's, those are big as well. It's the 4070s are a little smaller, and the 4060s, 4050s are definitely smaller.
So the 5070 is going to be what? What did you say? Around $600?
The 4070 is going to be $549.
No, you mean the 5070?
Or sorry, 5070. Yes, 5070, $549, which is a good price. It's a good price. It's just we need to see the benchmarks to really compare it.
So about $550 to $600,
Mm-hmm.
because
Yep.
there's going to be some that come out at that $599.99 price point.
Yeah, these are
Um,
OEM prices. This is directly from Nvidia.
So the 5060 is probably going to come out at what, 350, 450?
I would say
Probably
probably around
450.
450. Yeah,
So
450.
so we're looking at $500 for a new graphic card.
Or you can look at the Intel cards.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Those new Intel cards. I don't remember what they're called exactly. The B60 or something. That
But you said
one.
those are low end, right? Those would be considered
Well,
low end.
I think they're competing in the low end market. Intel them personally, but they do have a card that was released like a month or two ago that is very competitive with like the 4060. Very competitive,
Okay.
and it's like 250. 250.
That's really good.
So the only issue with Intel is they're behind the game when it comes to the drivers. They have to make sure everything works properly, and sometimes some new game comes out and the drivers aren't compatible with it, so the performance isn't as good. So it takes them a week or so to get it working properly. So there's that hiccup now. It's a growing pains with a new market, but they have shown the resilience of improving on it.
So I wonder though. I wonder if there's going to come a time where Nvidia is going to feel threatened enough that they have to lower the price points.
No.
Yeah.
There are too many high-end gamers that want the best of the best, and you cannot compete with what Intel's putting out with performance.
Oh God, that's terrifying to think. You know what that means when the 5080 or the 5090 comes out? That means we're talking like $2,000.
Oh yeah,
plus
the 5090
cards.
is $2,000.
Jesus Christ.
OEM priced at $2,000. But think about it this way: you can buy a Porsche, or you can buy a Honda, or you can buy a Ford. There are options, and that's what we now have with Intel jumping into the market. Is we have three options: AMD, Intel, and Nvidia.
I hate that analogy because Ford wouldn't even be considered a low-end graphic card. It would be considered one of those integrated graphic cards that that can maybe play solitaire or Minesweeper.
But either way, with Intel jumping into the market, there is that option. They're gonna always have a mid low end card. They're low end with quotation marks around it. But they are going to be the premium card. There's no doubt about that. They're definitely going to be the premium card. They have the highest, the best features with frame generation, DLSS.
Yeah.
Those are incredible features. AMD is going to be in second place with the high mid cards. And then Intel is going to come in there with the low end and then the mid level cards. And I think it's a great tactic.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I usually go for the 60 series of the cards because they're usually always an upgrade to my current card, and they're more powerful than my current card, and that does it for me because like I said, I don't need everything to be on ultra. I mean, and when those cards first come out, you can usually run everything on ultra. It's when it's later in the life cycle of the card when newer games are coming out and newer technologies where the card has to start kind of going down in settings.
Yeah, and one of the things that's been plaguing the PC world over the past probably 2 years is they don't optimize games like they used to. Games come out and they're expecting you to turn on frame generation, DLSS to get the performance there. And that's okay-ish, but not everyone has frame generation. You don't have it with your card. My wife doesn't have it with her card. And Rob doesn't have it with my cousin, Rob, doesn't have it with his AMD card. He has a version, but not Intel's frame generation. And then there's DLSS. They all have them, but you can only get so much of a boost from that. So I wish developers would go back to making games optimized for all platforms, all systems, like Dragon Age. Dragon Age launched extremely well with performance. I'm blown away. My wife with a 2070 can run it at 60 FPS without any issues. That, the settings are medium, but she can run it just fine. And it just blew my mind. I thought for sure it would be 30 FPS maybe, but a nice solid 60.
Okay. before we move on to the next piece of news, is there anything else from this show that you expect to hear, or is the show already over? Or
No, it's all
or
week long. For the rest of
that's
the
what I
week, it's
thought.
going to be PC makers, TV, stuff like that. Like AMD, or not AMD, Alienware announced new system. They announced new monitor. They might announce new keyboard, mouse. So it's going to be stuff like that. Logitech should be coming up soon with some new information with their stuff.
Ooh,
So a lot of it's
I'll
hardware
be
based, and it
I'll be very interested to hear what Corsair or HyperX do. As you know, those are my two
yeah.
favorite. Those are my two favorite. I'm currently using a Logitech mouse, which it's a good mouse, but I don't usually go Logitech. So I'm kind of hoping to see if either HyperX or Corsair comes out with something new this year, not just rehashes of their current product. But do you think there's going to be anything else newsworthy, or no? It's all going to just probably be the same stuff we
It's
do here every year.
it's going to be it's going to be hardware, and it's hard to really talk about hardware on a podcast kind of show like this.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
Why I only brought up the Nvidia is because it does pertain to gaming in
It's
general.
it's a big thing. It's a big thing. It's going to be a big thing for the next 2 years.
Oh yeah. It's and over the next 2 months, Nvidia's gonna roll out these cards, so more news will come out, and then we'll see the benchmarks come out, and that's where the interesting part will come into to play.
All right, and I see here, so it's kind of interesting that this is in the news because last night was the debut of Monday Night Raw live on Netflix. So it's kind of interesting that something WWE related is in the news with 2K game pulling the online access, the online servers for 2K23. Was that just 2 years? A little under 2 years, huh?
Hot water, man, hot water. Now this is we've talked about it before, and they
put out 2K20. They put 2K24 already, probably, right? So that's like, well, we don't need the old game.
Yeah, and they announced apparently yesterday. They announced 2K25. They had a show on. It was on the Netflix's first WWE Raw episode.
Gotta get that yearly 70, 80, 90, $1 billion for the fucking collector's edition bullshittery with your upgraded graphics somewhat.
One new move.
Less features. New move, less features. They usually take away, not add.
Pretty much. But this is a big deal because sure, you can still play the game. You just can't play online with people. You also can't download roster updates. You can't share your roster with anyone. So the online connectability is gone. The game is still playable, just limited in its capacity now. And 2K has been guilty of this, not just with WWE, but also in the NBA games as well, pulling games within 2 to 3 years from online access. And this is crazy because I think of what 2K has done with GTA 5. What are we on? 5, right?
Yeah. And we're coming. 6 is coming out this year, but the big thing is, I think with GTA though, is I think their online game is technically separate from the game, because like you get GTA, it's technically GTA 5 and GTA Online come together. GTA 5 is the standalone game, but then you also have access to their online servers. So they're kind of separate games being in one game.
Yeah, but like it's been over a decade.
Yep.
Now I understand it's a big money maker because they have currency and crap you can buy within it. But the 2K has the same thing with all this shit.
The RP community is huge. The RP community alone in GTA funds.
Oh yeah, it's the only reason it exists. It's the only reason it exists. There are for sure. I don't know. This is what I've been worried about as we go more to the live services. We're going to lose access to games. We talked about this before, but a game like The Division, which I absolutely love The Division, if they pull the plug to online access, I don't think the game's playable anymore.
No, it's not.
Unless they do some sort of software patch that allows it to be offline, but I'm pretty sure it needs online access to play.
Yeah, you can't even you can't even squad up with your people. Like the game's gone. The game's dead.
And I know like in the past, past games, they pull servers eventually, over a decade or so, and they pull the servers and you can't co-op. but there are ways around it. Not developers, but mods have been made so you can join, like SWAT. SWAT 3 was it?
Okay.
I think we were
4.
playing 4. Yeah, 4.
Yeah.
We were playing not that long ago because someone modded it so that you can jump in together with a game. You're no longer on the official Sierra servers because those are long gone. But that was that had capability of doing so. It's not possible anymore because of all the what's it called, the security involved with all the cheat stuff that's involved. None of that's available anymore unless the developer themselves pull it, which they're not going to because it would cost them money.
I guess the question is, and you probably don't have these numbers, and I don't blame you or anything, but like, were there any numbers on like who was still playing 2K23 online? Because I think the factors in usually, now obviously 2K probably might not give a shit because they're a big company, but usually you would factor in, okay, the cost of maintaining the servers plus, over the player base. If the player base isn't big enough to warrant keeping the servers up, then yeah, you take the servers down. But if the player base was still large, then you argue, like, what are they doing? They're just throwing away money.
Okay, so this is from SteamDB, but so this is only Steam, and this is which I think is only available on PC for Steam. But anyways, the 24-hour peak is 169 people. But then you throw in the Xbox and throw in the PlayStation, throw in the Switch, and you probably add in another 1,000 to 2,000 people.
So
maybe.
It probably makes sense for them to shut it down then, because
let me look at 2K24.
Yeah, that's a good point compared to 2K24.
Okay, well that's a big difference. That's 1,700. Which
okay, less than I thought.
Yeah, well, you take then you take the console versions, and you're looking at maybe 4,000 to 5,000 people.
See, I'm gonna argue, and I'm not. I'm gonna argue that the console versions probably have way more because a lot of the sports games are. It's only been recent years that they've really been doing PC versions of these sports games because they were usually console games. You don't, when you think of a sports game, you don't think of a PC player.
Yeah.
Usually. So I would probably argue that the console player base was probably and is probably a lot bigger. But yeah, I mean that's still a big number discrepancy. What you said, 170 versus 1,700?
Yeah. Now this is interesting.
17,000 or 1,700?
100. NBA 2K23, about 2,500 on PC.
Okay.
24 has about 7,200, and 25 has about 30K.
Interesting.
So the number, if you look at just 2K23, has what, 3-4 times more users using that than NBA? No, more than that, a lot more than that. Than WWE 2K23.
Well,
so that's interesting.
That's not fair though, because WWE is, wrestling is its own kind of thing, and a lot of people, there's still, wrestling has become more mainstream and popular over the years, but it's always got that taboo of it's like I said during the VTuber episode. VTubers have that same kind of stigma as professional wrestling, as odd as that sounds. And the fact that, like, they exist, there's tons of fans of it, but then you've got the other people on the outside are like, oh, it's professional wrestling. It's that fake stuff, right? Like, like.
This is crazy, though. Like, okay, there's less than 5,000 people playing Madden on PC right now, Madden 25. There were 30,000 playing on NBA 2K, and Madden, NFL is much bigger than basketball. But I think you're right when it comes to the console thing.
Yes, I think if we had the console numbers, you would see an even vaster number, because I think that stigma's never left of like the sports games really being console games, because when you think of PC gaming, you don't think of sports games. I'm surprised that there's a decent player base on PC for racing games. That's another game that's like, when you think about it, racing is probably another console game, because those kind of games are meant to play with a controller. And yes, you could plug in your controller on the PC and use it. But when you think controller-based games, you do think of console, and that's sports games, racing games, those kind of things are all got that kind of the core player base is usually console.
I challenge you on that one because the hardware itself for racing games, there are substantially more hardware options on PC than there is available on the console.
I'm not arguing about the hardware. The hardware, if we were making that argument, Joe, then every game ever played should be on fucking PC.
No, but
because your hardware choices are going to be vastly bigger than playing them on console. Even with the sports games,
I feel like the racing games though, I don't know. Well, gosh, now you got me questioning this because Gran Turismo is only available on the PS5. And the counter to that on PC would probably be the new Forza Motorsports. Now I question what you're saying. I think you might be right. You probably are right.
Like I was saying, I think the technology obviously would be better for PC, but I just think that it's been programmed in gamers' heads that these games were console games for the longest time, that when they finally started coming to PC, you had people excited to play them on PC, the PC gamers who wanted their sports games, finally getting their sports game, but I just don't think that the player base is like huge number movers. Like, I almost wonder if it's even worth it to make a PC version unless it doesn't really cost them anything extra and only prints them money. Because, I guess that would probably be a thing. Like, you're only really printing, like a CD key or a key and maintaining your servers. Or I don't know how it all works, but I'm assuming it's probably cheaper to make a quote-unquote PC game than a console game that you have to usually print on a hard disk, unless you're sending it just to their digital stores. But
well, that was the thing with NBA 2K, and I think I talked about this recently too. Is they didn't bring over the next gen, the PS5 version, and whatever the latest Xbox one's called, to PC until 2 years later, because the player base just isn't there. Which is interesting to say that, and look at 30,000 people playing it on PC. So I don't know. Maybe they're right. Maybe 2K24 wasn't as many users, and now that they have the next gen graphics, maybe there is. I don't know. I didn't keep an eye on that kind of stuff, but that's interesting to take in consideration.
So yeah, I guess we'll see how it goes, but it's very interesting. I guess the next piece of news, Joe. Let's move on to that because we could be talking about this as it is. We're 30 minutes in. I don't even know if we'll get to our actual original topic at this point.
Yeah, I think it's probably best just to save early access for another episode. We're trying not to have super long episodes and focus kind of on the base.
And this is one of the rare times that we have a decent amount of news to talk about.
Yeah,
so,
for sure. I think since the first episode.
Oh yeah, there's been we'll usually sometimes get a piece or two of news, but nothing that really can get us engaged for a while. So this is and it's good to have a show like this where we can just talk about news and current event things.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know I touched on this in the past, but The Last of Us Season 2 finally has a release month, maybe even a day, but April 2025. So 4 months from now, we'll have Season 2 of The Last of Us. Mark, I don't remember. You said you didn't watch it?
I was never super into the game. Not that I thought it was a bad game by any means. I don't know. I couldn't engage myself like I thought I would, because I see the game, I see its popularity, I see why it's popular, and normally it's something that it's up my alley. But I don't know what it is. Maybe it's fatigue from those style of games, from your kind of quasi zombie games. They're not it's not really zombies. It's like a plague, right? Like some kind of weird.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah. But I guess it's like a fatigue sort of thing. So like I didn't really play the games much, and so the show didn't really interest me either. Not that I think it's a bad show. I don't have any, I've heard nothing but good things about the show. It's just I guess because I'm not interested in the game, I'm not really interested in the show.
Yeah, I don't know. The show really surprised me. Pedro Pascal is leading the show, and he's freaking a phenomenal actor. I love him and everything he's done. And
I like him too. I do worry though. You see him so much now that I worry that like we're gonna get like fatigue from like.
oh yeah, he's definitely getting
actor
into that
fatigue.
Chris Pratt thing where he's in everything
Oh
now.
yeah,
And hopefully
suddenly-
he's not going to, but we'll see what happens.
he'll be in the next Mario movie as Wario.
I would have been fine with that.
Jesus Christ, Jesus Christ, Joe! Don't give him ideas.
I'd be fine with that. But he's does an amazing job as Joel, and I can't think of the name of the girl that plays. Oh man, I can't think of any names right now.
Of Ellie,
Ellie, yeah,
Ellie's
yeah,
actress.
yeah. But she's really, really good too. She surprised me. And season 2, the trailer looked really, really good. I've not played The Last of Us 2 because it's only on PlayStation, but coming to PC, and I think it's coming to PC just before the show's releasing, which is what I was hoping for, because I think I talked about that in one of the last episodes.
Bella
And,
Ramsey, is that her name?
What's that? Say again?
Bella Ramsey.
Yeah, Bella Ramsey. Yep.
What is she from? She's from something.
Game of
Isn't
Thrones.
she? That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. She was Sasha,
I don't
right?
remember her
I
name.
think so. I think she became like the last like big like character on the show after they killed off literally everybody.
Yeah, yeah. But she's really, really good. So I'm really
Yeah.
excited. I'm super excited. And like I said, looks like we're going to get the game out on PC before the show hits, which means I can slowly play the game. And as the game unravels, I could watch the
Oh
show.
no,
So,
she wasn't Sasha. She was Liana Mormont. I have no
Liana,
idea.
yeah.
No idea who the fuck that is.
But
So
she was
cool.
really good. Really, really good.
Yeah, no, I I have no doubt.
And then
So I'm,
Catherine Denner, I think her name is coming into season 2. And she's playing a questionable character that people are wondering how it's going to play out. And she's a great actress as well. She was in Last Man Standing and a couple of other shows.
is Abby in the game yet? Or
That's
or
Abby.
show
Yeah,
yet?
that's who it is. That's who
She's gonna be
Catherine.
doing
Yeah.
Abby. Okay,
Yeah.
so she's gonna be the Joel killer.
Oh, don't be ruining, spoiling things. But so
It's fine. It's fine. The games have been
So-
around long enough. It'll be okay.
either way, so I'm super excited to see season 2 of this and play Last of Us number 2.
Hell, that game.
And-
Hell, that big thing was spoiled when the game was coming out. They had spoiled that for everybody.
I didn't know anything about it.
Oh fuck! I never played game. I didn't even play game 1, and I knew he was dying in game 2.
I knew he
Holy
died, but
shit.
I didn't know when and how and all that stuff. So like,
Oh, it was crazy. Like that was all over. Like that was one of the few times where it almost seemed like people were trying to spoil, not spoil. It was so weird.
yeah, I've been very fortunate not to get things spoiled. You know, even movies or shows, games that I've not played. I remember when what was it? Flash, when the Flash movie came out, and I went to go see that in the theater, and I went with my cousin, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you hear all the spoilers already, haven't you?" I'm like, "No, I actually don't know anything about it. I've been like staying off of social media and any Reddit that might have any news on it." So I've been
Can I say
very
a small
fortunate
thing
in that
about that?
regards.
Like especially like I hate DC's movie studios. Like they at first you could almost commend them for sticking to their guns and be like, look, no, we know that the actor who plays the Flash on the WB show is a good actor, but we want this guy to be our movie Flash. At first you almost kind of wanted to be like, you have an idea and you want to go with it, so cool, we'll stick it to your guns. But when the guy started getting into legal trouble,
Oh yeah, they should have
Instead
dropped
of-
him at that point.
instead of dropping him and maybe going for someone who people legitimately liked and were lobbying for, the guy who plays the Flash on the TV show, they wanted him to be the Flash in the movies. Like they could have actually, because they ruined their fucking movie. Like the Flash movie was going to bomb, and the more they stuck to their guns and keeping that douchebag as the Flash, it was more prominent that people were gonna be like, oh, you don't give a shit. Well, we don't give a shit. Fuck you.
I get part of it is because they had already recorded so much, and the movie was done, and they were now just doing re-records in certain areas.
Yeah, but
so they had spent millions and millions of dollars already on this movie, and they're trying to try to get whatever they could out of it, and it did, I think, financially well overall. I don't know if it made its money back because it went through so many rewrites and reshoots and whatnot. It was a big shame because Michael Keaton, I think we talked about this before too, but Michael Keaton is my Batman. He will always be my Batman. And to see him suit up as Batman again, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. But then to have that movie, him coming back as Batman, I was like, this kind of sucks. And then they actually had Christopher Reeve CGI'd into it as well for a second. And I was like, wow, this is amazing, and then you just get the movie and you're like,
So the budget for the movie was $200 to $220 million.
Okay.
The box office was $271.4 million.
Okay, so they made its money back. But that doesn't count advertisement either.
So they kind of didn't make any money.
Maybe with selling I don't know if anyone bought it, the Blu-rays and the 4K discs and streaming rights and stuff. Well, it would be streamed on Max, so they probably wouldn't make any money through that.
So
they might not have. Maybe break even.
I almost argue then that they would have been better off just reshooting the movie with the other guy as the Flash, and people might have gone willingly to see the movie and it actually make them money, that it would make up for the money that they lost reshooting the film. That's just an argument that could be made. I'm not saying it would or wouldn't.
I think DC just shat the bed on all this stuff, though. All their stuff just sucks, and I mean, look at
the what's the bitch's name that was that. Granted, Johnny Depp isn't no saint either.
Amber Heard.
And they kept her. Didn't they keep her in Aquaman too? And
I think so.
Kind of bombed too.
I don't know. I haven't liked anything from DC since Wonder Woman.
Yeah, it's funny.
Wonder Woman was a good movie. The initial one.
Rob, it's actually really funny. Me and Rob had this literal conversation days ago about the DC universe, and I was telling him things I didn't like about it, and he kind of argued that he liked some of that. Like I told him, one of the biggest things I hated about Batman versus Superman was the whole her name's Martha too, and he was like, I actually kind of like that because you kind of forget that.
That's interesting because I like that too.
I
thought that was a good tactic on it.
I guess so. I just don't. It didn't land with me, I guess. And then, that movie was already a mess with.
It's just too much going on.
They segued the Superman death in there and all that shit. It's like it was. I don't know. I argue that I do agree with you. I think that the Wonder Woman movie was the only good movie in that whole set because. You could argue Man of Steel, and I liked, and like I even told your cousin, I actually liked Man of Steel until the end. The end blew the whole movie for me.
Yeah, the ending was the worst part of it all. Like, the movie is fine. It's just that last 5 minutes is like, oh, why'd you do that?
And literally, it was because of how they shot the film. They took the big drama scene of like Superman trying to be like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to kill this guy, and I don't kill people, and I don't want to kill this guy, and to save these random idiots who just couldn't walk off to the left.
Yeah.
Because of how they aired, because of how they shot the fucking film. It's like they took the drama out of it by like, if the idiots would have been like, oh, we could just walk over there. We're fine. You ain't got to do shit. But they were like, no, oh my God, we can't move. He's going to kill us.
I think that like a lot of issues when it comes to movies and even series nowadays is that they add so much more stuff into it. They don't just have a base story. They have to have
Yeah.
8,000 different characters for you to follow as well. And then you get all twisted and all this crap. I think of like, just think of the movie Batman. Think of Christopher Reeve's Superman, right? We're going way back in time with these ones. Think of Back to the Future. Think of Ninja Turtles, right? I'm throwing out movies that have some sort of a gaming element to it, so at least we have that.
Well, because we can talk about entertainment, so it doesn't have to just be gaming. But like, the theme is that a lot of the times you had one enemy, one problem, and they used the movie to tell that story, and that was your problem that you had to deal with.
Yeah.
And now these movies now are like, well, we have to stop Lex Luthor from blowing up the city so that he unleashes Doomsday so that Darkseid could come through a portal, and the Joker randomly appears from Gotham to kill Lois so Superman goes evil, and then they all suck each other off and it becomes a gay porno. I don't fucking know. It's too much. It's too much. Tell one fucking story. One fucking story. Don't try and segue 35 fucking villains, 35 actors. Like, you don't need all that shit. People already have attention span problems enough that you don't need to add all kinds of other bullshit in there. It's dumb. It's dumb as fuck. And I don't understand the need to do that. I look back to I liked the wasn't it Andrew Garfield Spider-Man films.
Oh yeah, they weren't bad.
I liked the very first one. And the second one could have been good, and they decided to do 3 or 4 different plot points in that fucking movie. Like, you had Electro and that whole thing.
Yeah.
Then they put in Harvey and Green Goblin and the whole thing with Gwen, and it's like they ruined the film by doing too much. Less is more. That's an old saying, right? There's an old saying, less is more. When did people forget that less is more and start going, no, more is more. We got to have more. We have to have more. And it's like, no, dumbass. You don't have to have more. Tell a simple story that's easy to follow as long as it's coherent and makes sense. Even if it's predictable, people are going to be like, if the film's good and well written, even if you could predict the fucking story, most people are going to be like, that was a pretty good film. I enjoyed that. Maybe I'll watch it again when it comes out on digital. Maybe I'll take someone else and see it again in theater. Blah, blah, blah. Like, it's not rocket science. It's fucking filmemaking.
And a lot of the issues have to come down to social media platforms like Twitter or TikTok and Instagram, and now YouTube Shorts, right? Where you have so much content, you can experience so much in the matter of 10 minutes, based on all the different TikToks and Snapchats and Instagram Reels.
I got a question for you, and because maybe your memory's better than me.
Probably not.
Did movie trailers always used to give away the entire movie?
No.
Because when did that start? Around the time of the comic book movies, right? Where it seems like every trailer gives you the entire movie. You could theoretically almost piece together a whole film with some of the trailers that they put out. If they put some of those big studios that would put out 3 and 4 and 5 trailers for their fucking movie or their like TV shorts, you could almost piece that shit together and make the whole goddamn film.
Yeah, I'd say within the last 20 years, somewhere within that time frame. Yeah, you're right. So what the comic book era, somewhere on there. I don't know if it's the comic books themselves, but definitely it probably is, actually, honestly. There's always some, we tied some of the recent gaming issues to Ubisoft with some of the practices they had, and maybe it was Marvel Disney practices that had changed the way that movies are made now today. Like there are some really good indie flicks, indie studios that have made some incredible movies. There are also some really terrible ones, but some of the indie ones, because the stories are so basic. Okay, so my cousin and I, we recently watched, unfortunately, the Terrifier movies, and they're not great. I don't want to rant on that because that's a whole 20 minutes.
Okay.
But the thing is, and this is my complaint, is that there isn't enough context to a story. I want to know more about the killer in it. I can't think of the name right now. But anyways, I want to know more details behind that character, and they don't give you that.
Mm,
So here's a movie that actually is reversed what I want. I don't want a whole 1,000 different stories going on. I just want one main story from this one character. And that's what a lot
mm.
of indie flicks do is they give you the base story. And in this case, they just don't give you any story.
Okay. All right.
Art the
Well,
Clown, that's who I'm thinking of, Art the Clown.
all right. Well, before we move on to our last little piece of news, I have a quick question again for you, Joe. Did you? I know you haven't played them because I know they're not usually. I don't know if they're your type of game or whatnot. But have you had any interest or anything in the Yakuza franchise?
No, not at all.
Okay. I'm just curious. Do you have any interest in like a story driven like beat 'em up where like you they have a set goal in mind, a main story with the main character, and it's essentially like a beat 'em up using different like fighting styles.
No, like I know my cousin tried to get me involved way back in the day with Shamu kind of
Shimu.
games, but I tried and I could never get into it. It's never just
I
it's not the, the Japanese culture either. I love some of that culture. I just not my kind of game.
I argue that you should legitimately give Yakuza 0 a try. You could play it out of my library or wait till it's on sale for like $2, $5. I would argue to give it a legitimate chance. I'm talking maybe one full gaming session where you're just like, okay, I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna play this for a couple of hours, and if I don't like it, then I don't like it. But because Yakuza 0 for one is like the prequel. It's like the game that's theoretically story wise starts it all. I argue that by the end of your gaming session, if you might be hooked because that company. I'm so bad with names, but that particular company who does all of the Yakuza games writes stories in such a way that even if you don't think it's your cup of tea, it draws you in and it really has you interested in these characters. And then they do a really good job with taking away some of the tension of the story with their side quests and the side quests are completely skippable if you're not interested in them, but they have very silly, very extremely goofy things at times where you're just like, what in the actual fuck? But it's usually like silly funny, not like well, sometimes it's a little disturbing but it's like this, but it's disturbing in like a funny way that like it's a good break from the tension because the main story is usually very full of tension and but like good tension, like where you care, like you want to, but sometimes you need that breather, so you do the side quest. And I would argue just give it one fair shot, and it might still not be your cup of tea, and that's completely okay. But I think you are the type of person who can recognize good storytelling.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I think the storytelling is enough that it'd be like, even if the gameplay style isn't normally your cup of tea, I think you won't care as much. I just think it's just, it's worth just trying for, even if you only give it like 2-3 hours, like an afternoon or whatever, that I think you might find yourself surprised, because I didn't think I would like the Yakuza franchise either until I really sat down and played the first one, and then the first one became the second one. Well, actually, no, technically, I started with Yakuza 7 before I even touched Yakuza 0, because they had changed it to an RPG, JRPG style game. So going back and playing 1 through 6 is a totally different style where it's more of a beat 'em up. And me being a JRPG guy, 7 was more my style. But I still went back and played Yakuza 0, and I ended up playing. I played Yakuza 0, Yakuza Kiwami, and Kiwami 2, which is just Yakuza Kiwami, which is just Yakuza 1 and Yakuza 2. And then they released 3, 4, 5, and 6 all together on Steam around the same time. And I think I got them all for like $20. All 4 games. I just think that like you should give Yakuza 0 a try, and if it's not your thing, it's not your thing. But I think you might find yourself surprised. And the reason why I'm asking about it is because I actually just started watching the Amazon Prime Like a Dragon / Yakuza TV show. Now I'm not very far in. I'm only about the episodes are about 45 minutes, and I think I'm only about 25-ish in. And I don't have a full opinion yet. Because Amazon Prime's menu system, at least on the TV, is not great. So they're like, I couldn't get the subtitles to turn off because it's giving you subtitles with an English dub, and the English dub is not matching the subtitles because the translations are different. The subtitles are subtitling what the Japanese actors are probably saying, and the English actors are saying things differently because either translation things or the way they're trying to act what the characters are saying or doing while in a live action scenario where they're just voice actors trying to copy what a live action person's doing, and it's it just doesn't match up. So it's a little jarring, so I try not to read the subtitles because they don't really match. But and the voice acting is a little wonky because you can tell they got professional voice actors like your Johnny Young Bosch's, who's big in anime and games, to play a character that's supposed to be like a 15, 17-year-old kid. And it does sound jarring. The main character from the TV show is the main character in the first 6 games. And he has he's supposed to be like 17 at the time. He's got this really deep voice. And I'm like, so a little bit jarring. But so far I was enjoying what I saw because I know a decent amount about the Yakuza series and the story. And it's kind of faithful while kind of not. But I think like next podcast, I'll probably do like a quick update of being like, well, I finished watching it, or, I'm mostly through it and this is what I think of the show, blah, blah, blah. But I figured I would just ask because I was bringing that up.
I'll consider it a possibility. I don't know. I'm not all that engaged in that kind of stuff, but never say never.
Like I said, you and I share libraries through Steam. So you don't have to spend any money on it, just time. Just download the game and maybe sit down for an hour or two when you've got like an hour or two free. Just give it a try. If you don't like it, you don't like it. No, I'm not gonna be mad at you or blame you for not liking it because it just might not be your cup of tea. But I just think the writing in that series is so good that it can bring non-fans in. And now for our last piece of news, Mr. Joe.
Video game movies. One of our very first episodes was about, and maybe it was our very first episode, it was about video game movie adaptions. And we have 3 more coming from Sony.
He's surprised, kind of.
One I knew was going to happen for sure. 2 I did not know. One makes sense. 2 makes sense, I suppose. But here's what I'm thinking, Mark. When these come out, and they're probably not coming out until 2026, but when these come out, I think we should see them.
Okay.
And we will do an episode on the movie. Each one. Well, obviously, they're not going to come out at the same time, but so we'll see it in the theaters, date, release date, and then we'll do an episode on it.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm game-ish because I can tell you what. I'm looking at the 3 titles right here on my document, and one of them I'm not going to go see because I avoided the game like the plague. I'm going to avoid the movie like the plague.
I'm interested. Okay, so the 3 we have are Helldivers 2, which is interesting. That's based on Helldivers 2 and not just Helldivers. But maybe the story that I got this from is incorrect on that. But anyways, this was announced yesterday or today. Horizon Zero Dawn.
That one surprises me a lot because
it makes sense. It would be it could asterisks on that, could be a very good movie.
Story-wise, it makes sense to be a movie. How they're going to pull it off, given that they're fighting robot dinosaurs? I'm guessing lots of CGI, but it's like
it could be good.
The final one is Until Dawn.
Now, I'm questioning why you're so against this, because Until Dawn, it's amazing it hasn't already been a movie, because it plays out, the game plays out like a movie.
It's so fucking bad.
What?
Oh my God, the acting, every character in that game. And here's the thing. I'm going to be fair. I've never played them. I've watched a hell of a lot of streamers and a hell of a lot of people play these games.
That's a game that you cannot watch. You have to play. You have to experience it.
I disagree.
That's a game where you make the choices. That's like reading one of those books and having someone else make the choices for you when you should be making the choices. That is what that game's all about.
Yeah, and I've seen people play the game and make different choices.
Yeah, but you're not making the choice. You have to make the choice. Like, you're making the choice to not like the game.
Okay. Yeah, I make the choice because every single one of those characters were shit and I wanted them to die. The only character I didn't want to die was the damn dog, and I don't even know if that's in Until Dawn. That might be one of the other games. And
you make a great serial killer in a movie.
Who?
You.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll be the serial killer. It'll just be me bitching at you for 7 hours.
Oh boy,
you kill yourself.
I'm blown away. Like I said, I'm surprised that this isn't already a series or a movie, because it plays out like that. Too.
I definitely agree with you that it definitely is something that either should be or should have been a movie or a series by now. Those games, that game, I think started it all, but then it's the series with the one guy who's the narrator. Oh my God.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I can't think of it.
I can't remember the name. Oh man. But there's a bunch of them that came out.
Yeah.
And those games arguably at least have slightly better characters, but the Until Dawn one specifically, I hated every character that was on screen.
The Dark Pictures. The Dark Pictures Man of yeah.
Yes.
But like, okay, so you got The Quarry that came out. That's very similar to Until Dawn. Yep. I think it's also from Sony.
I think that is technically a non-official sequel, kind of.
Oh, interesting.
I think I heard people saying that like it's a sequel that's not a sequel. Like it's like until you get Until Dawn 2, think of it as a sequel to Until Dawn.
It's from the same developer, Supermassive Games. I didn't know that.
Yep.
I didn't play that one. But I thought I heard that they're working on a movie for that too. I might be incorrect on that, but I thought I heard that. I
wouldn't be surprised. I don't like those type of games that much. Like those forced like, make this choice right now. And if you don't make the choice fast enough, we'll make it for you. Because that's what they're quick time events that you have to, like, you can't just sit there. A lot of the times, maybe I'm wrong. That's
a horror movie. Like a horror movie, you can't be like, all right, let me pause this real quick. Let me pause the event here, and then decide who I don't like the most.
Here's the thing,
you have to make a decision. Are you going to say Bob or Nellie?
Here's the thing, Joe. I don't like horror films.
I know that. That's probably why you don't like the movie. I mean, the game.
I don't give a flying fuck. And, well, to be fair, this game particularly, I've seen enough gameplay and enough hours of this game to be like every time one of those characters got on screen and started talking, I was like, holy shit, I want this person to shut the fuck up badly.
Well, if this makes you happy at all, it's a brand new cast and a new story. It's just the title of the film's called Until Dawn.
I mean,
but you're not a horror fan, horror film, so that might be.
I'm not a new generational horror film. I prefer the classics because they were still at least rooted in fantasy. That you could kind of like. I love the old Chucky films. To me, that was fucking hilarious. Friday the 13th. Freddy was. I still remember one of his later ones where like one dude was high off his ass. He played he was Jay from Jay and Silent Bob, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
And then there was one girl who was like really, I can't remember if she was just in an insomniac and she was trying not to go to sleep, and then she nodded off and he pops up and he goes, "Got your nose," and
yeah.
and it just snips off her nose and oh man, just those funny little quips that I was just like, where you can laugh at it, but also kind of be terrified. those old horror films, I definitely have in high regard. I haven't liked new horror films in a long time because to me, and a lot of these games do the same thing. It's shock factor for shock factor. They want to shock you. They want you to be disturbed. They want you to be upset. They're not trying to. It's not even about scaring you. It's just about like grossing you out or freaking you out or whatever. It's not. I guess psychological horror to me is better than these newfangled gore films, gore horror films. Like, and a lot of those games are like that, where it's like I prefer the psychological, the ones that play with your mind a little bit and lets you still. I give you a little bit more personality than a lot of these style of games and movies. They're just not. They're just not for me.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. Like there are some really bad horror movies that have come out over the past decade, and I've talked about this with a couple of people. But there's been a couple bright spots in there, and horror movies have become two categories. It's either gore porn, or it's become a jump scare, and that's kind of.
I hate both of those. I hate both of those.
And
really
some compile it into one movie, and it makes the ultimate awful movie.
Yeah.
But there are a handful that are decent.
That's why I didn't like Saw. That's why they could have had a really good psychological horror film series, but then they had to throw some of the shock horror, the gore horror, and then
that was the start of like all of it. Hostel.
Yeah, and then they
Saw.
Yep. And then they needed to make 72 versions of that movie. It's like, and none of them were good. Like after Saw 1 and maybe or Saw 2 maybe. It was like you should have stopped.
Yeah, Saw 1 and 2 were good. The last one was really, really good. It's the best of the series, everyone says. Because it has a really good. It's actually more of a story than it is than the gore porn stuff. And it's a great story. I do recommend anyone who's watched any of the Saw movies give the last one, Saw 10, I think it's called. They are, of course, making a sequel to that one, and that will probably be garbage. But the last one was really, really good. Really, really good. Surprisingly good. I expected it to be awful, but it was a great story. And it hit me hard because it was about cancer. And it's about the struggles that the main character had gone through. And anyways, I don't want to ruin anything with it, but it was really, really good.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, fair. But yeah, but you could see why I wouldn't watch a movie on that and why I don't play these games. It's not even so much like, I'll tell you one game that I eventually want to play, and it's legitimately scary to me, and a lot of it's because it's playing with your mind, and that's you see a lot of people play it during Halloween. Mortuary Assistant.
Oh, I tried. Yeah, fuck that. Yeah, no.
Very simplistic game. Very simplistic. The embalming mechanics are really good.
Yeah,
and that game really
that stuff freaks me out too much.
That game really fucks with your head.
Yeah, no.
Because it does. That's a jump scare type of game that I'm okay with because the jump scares are in your mind. They're just represented on the screen. Like, this isn't really happening.
Yeah.
Or I guess non-spoilers, it can kind of become real with the subject matter that they go, but a lot of it is the main character being, having some issues that she's dealing with, and it plays on those. But that's a rare exception to my rule. But yeah, those kind of games aren't usually for me because I want something that tells a story better. I want something that plays with the mind a little bit, because it's telling a story and manipulates your feelings and whatnot. Not something just like, oh shit, that thing's a bear, or oh my god, his that knife went through the center of his head and it split him down, and you could see all the guts and the goo coming out, and there's weird blood squirts and this and that. It's like, I don't want to. Who gives a flying fuck?
On the next episode of Pixel Realms, Mark plays a horror game and rants about it if he survives.
Says that which will never happen unless somebody wants to donate a very, very large sum of money.
I got $1.50 somewhere around here.
I'm a little more expensive than that. I'm at least $2.50, sir.
Oh well, no, yeah, I'm out of my price range. Well,
yeah,
so this episode definitely went way sideways than what we were expecting. As we talked about earlier, it was going to be early access gaming, but
I mean,
we had some good news. We had some good news to talk about and ramble about. So this is going to be our rambling episode of
well,
Pixel Realms.
it's a news centric episode, and so it kind of derailed. In the heart of trying to keep the episodes a little bit shorter, and not just go on for hours and hours. Well, we'll be calling audible, as they say in some businesses, and we'll do the early access episode, then maybe the next episode or the episode after that. We're gonna definitely do the episode. It's just that there's some days like this where you have a lot of things to talk about. For example, newsworthy, and it's good to be open and to throwing away the script, if you will, and
Yeah, absolutely.
changing things up.
Anything else to add to this episode, Mark?
No, I'm just trying to stay busy, getting ready for my re-debut, whatever, on Twitch and YouTube with my VTuber model, which I think I showed you that it's all rigged and it moves now and is cool, and trying to film some more episodes for YouTube. I'm gonna try recording this week with this new light that you recommended, and see if that helps some of the lighting issues, because that's been my biggest problem, is that I don't have the greatest camera quality. Even though it's supposed to be an HD camera, it's still a webcam, and then I don't have a place I can record really other than my room, because that's where my computer and everything is, and my setup isn't great, so there's a little bit of a lighting issue. So trying to improve that, so I at least have slightly better quality, and then it's just getting used to making the kind of content that I want to make again, because like one or two of my episodes have been unboxing, and one of them was me like transforming a transformer figure, and I had a hard time trying to keep the figure on the camera while I was doing the motions of the transformations, because I'm looking at the camera, but I'm left and the camera's right, kind of thing. And so it's harder than it looks. And I didn't think it would be. So it's just some little things like that I'm trying to get used to and working out. So that's really it. I'm just staying busy with that. I know you've got, stuff on your plate, and flight sim is always on your mind too. So
yeah, it's that's all I do.
Well, I mean,
Yeah. Well, thanks everyone for listening to our ramble today on this episode, and we'll be back to the structure probably the next episode with early access.
Yep. And thanks as always for giving us a listen. Even if you spend just a few minutes with us, even if it's not the full length of the episode, it's still appreciated that you even give us a listen, because it's great to try new things, and maybe we're not your cup of tea, or maybe we are. You never know.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for watching and listening, and we'll see you for the next episode. Take care.
Bye.